Vasus, I am fire, Agni, and of mountains I am Meru.
Text 24. पुरोधसां च मुख्यं मां विद्धि पार्थ बृहस्पतिं सेनानीनाम् अहं स्कन्दः सरसामस्मि सागरः.
Of priest, O Arjuna, know me to be the chief Brihaspati. Of generals, I am Kartikeya, and of bodies of water, I am the ocean.
Text 25. महर्षीणां भृगुरहं गिरामस्मि एकमक्षरं यज्ञानां जपयज्ञोऽस्मि स्थावराणां हिमालयः.
Of the great sages, I am Vrigu. Of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. Of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names, Japa, and of immovable things, I am the Himalayas.
Text 26. अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदां गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः.
Of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages, among the demigods, I am Naruda. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitraratha, and among perfected beings, I am the sage Kapila.
Text 27. उच्चैश्रवसम् अश्वानां विद्धि माम् अमृतोद्भवम् ऐरावतं गजेन्द्राणां नराणां च नराधिपम्.
Of horses, know me to be Uchchashrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Oiravata, and among men, I am the monarch.
Text 28. आयुधानाम् अहं वज्रं धेनूनामस्मि कामधुक् प्रजनश्चास्मि कन्दर्पः सर्पाणामस्मि वासुकी.
Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Shuravhi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandarpo, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vasuki.
Text 29. अनन्तश्चास्मि नागानां वरुणो यादसामहं पितॄणाम् आर्यमा चास्मि यमः संयमतामहम्.
Of the many-hooded Nagas, I am Ananta. And among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Of departed ancestors, I am Ajuma. And among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the lord of death.
10.30. प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालः कल्यतामहं मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहं वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणाम्.
Among the Daita demons, I am the devoted Prahlada. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda.
10.31. पवनः पवतामस्मि रामशास्त्रभृतामहं जासानां मकरश्चास्मि स्रोतशामस्मि जानवी.
Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapon, I am Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of flowing rivers, I am the Ganges.
10.32. सर्गाणामादिरन्तश्च मध्यं चैवाहमर्जुन आध्यात्मविद्याविद्यानां वादः पवदतामहम्.
Of all creation, I am the beginning and the end and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among logicians, I am the conclusive truth.
10.33. अक्षराणामकारोऽस्मि द्वन्द्वसमासिकस्य च अहम् एवाक्षयः कालो धाताहं विश्वतो मुखः.
Letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma.
10.34 मृत्यु सर्वहरश्चाहम् उद्भवश्च भविष्यताम् कीर्ति श्रीर्वाक् च नारीणाम् स्मृतिर्मेधा धृतिः क्षमा.
I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness.
10.35 बृहत्साम तथा साम्ना गायत्री
मैं आ रही थी, मैं कर रही थी
छंदसाम
वो तो सही टेढ़ा था, टेढ़ा था इसके लिए।
सॉरी 10.35 बृहत्साम तथा साम्नां गायत्री छन्दसामहं मासानां मार्गशीर्षोऽहं ऋतूनां कुसुमाकर.
Of the hymns in the Shama Veda, I am the Brihat Shama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, November, December, and of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring.
10.36 द्युतं चलयतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहं जयोऽस्मि व्यवसायोऽस्मि सत्वं सत्त्ववतामहम्.
I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid, I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong.
10.37 प्रश्नीनां वासुदेवोऽस्मि पाण्डवानां धनञ्जय मुनीनाम् अपि अहं व्यासः कवीनामुशना कवि.
Of the descendant of Vansi, I am Vasudeva, and of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa, and among great thinkers, I am Ushana.
10.38 दण्डो दमयतामस्मि नीतिरस्मि जिगीषतां मौनं चैवास्मि गुह्यानां ज्ञानं ज्ञानवतामहम्.
Among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am the wisdom.
10.39 यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तद् अहमर्जुन न तद् अस्ति विना यत् स्यान् मया भूतं चराचरम्.
Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existence. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me.
10.40 नान्तोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तुद्देशतः प्रोक्तो विभूतेर्विस्तरो मया.
O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulence.
10.41 यद् यद् विभूतिमत्सत्त्वं श्रीमदूर्जितमेव वा तत्तत् एवावगच्छत्वं मम तेजोंस संभवम्.
Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor.
10.42 अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्याहम् इदं कृत्स्नम् एकं सेन स्थितो जगत्.
But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Hare Krishna.
ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद् गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्ण अर्जुन संवादे विभूतियोगो नाम 10मोऽध्यायः. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Divya Gorangi Mataji and Supreme Mataji. Wonderful recitation. So we'd like to welcome everyone to today's session, chat session. I'm conscious that today we have a few people who are joining us for the first time. So we'd like to extend a warm welcome to you. This group is called the CHAD, Chapter a Day of the Bhagavad Gita. And we've been going now for a few months, 3 to 4 months, going through the chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Our normal process is we read a chapter, and then we focus on one particular verse. Chapter 10 is quite lengthy, so we've broken this chapter up into 2 parts. So therefore you would have noticed that we started reciting from today from verse number 22. So again, a warm welcome to you. My name is Vrindavan Chandra. I am one of the facilitators of the different sessions. I normally facilitate on Sunday and Monday. So we'll normally say the Mangala Charanam prayers before we start. Mangala means auspiciousness. So we say these prayers to invoke auspiciousness, because by this auspiciousness, it opens up our consciousness to understand the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll say a few of the Mangala Charan prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine. So can you all see my video? I'm just wondering if...
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right, thank
Yes,
you.
Prabhuji.
So today we are doing text number 37. We are currently in that part of the chapter. This chapter is called the Opulence of the Absolute. And in this chapter, Krishna is giving us knowledge of his opulences. And the general instruction of this is, we've read from previous chapter, that the perfection of life is to always think of Krishna. And by practicing of thinking of Krishna, then at the most critical point of our life, life's final exam, which is death, then we are able to think of Krishna. And as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, one who thinks of him at the time of death never takes birth again in this material world. So as spirit souls, as living entities, we have been trapped in the cycle of reincarnation for an unlimited time. Birth, death, old age, disease, through different types of bodies, through the 8,400,000 species of life. But the human form of life is rare. So we're getting this opportunity, and especially the opportunity to hear the instructions of Krishna, and in this way, take those instructions and apply it in our life. And in this chapter, Krishna is telling us, through the various physical things in our experience and through living entities, he is giving us a glimpse of how we can see him in these various aspects of our everyday experience. And by this knowledge, we'll be able to think of him constantly. And as we explained yesterday, by thinking of Krishna constantly, 2 wonderful things happen. Firstly, one becomes purified, of the unwanted things in one's heart, which acts as obstacles towards human perfection. And secondly, one develops an intimate connection with Krishna. So in this text 37, which is a beautiful verse, Krishna is saying, Vrishninam Vasudevasmi, Pandavanam Dhananjaya, Muninam Apyaham Vyasaha, Kavinam Oshanam Kavihi. Of the descendants, I am Vrishni. Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudev. And of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyas. And among great thinkers, I am Ushana. So we shall discuss this beautiful verse in more detail. But before we do that, we shall read the purport. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Would any of the wonderful attendees like to read today's purport?
Everybody, can I read, please?
Yes, please go ahead, Rashtrimachi.
Okay, thank you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Baladeva is Krishna's immediate expansion. Both Lord Krishna and Baladeva appeared as the sons of Vasudeva, so both of them may be called Vasudeva. From another point of view, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, all the forms of Krishna that appear elsewhere are his expansions. Vasudeva is Krishna's immediate expansion, so Vasudeva is not different from Krishna. It is to be understood that the Vasudeva referred to in this verse of Bhagavad Gita is Baladeva or Balaram, because he is the original source of all incarnations, and thus he is the sole source of Vasudeva. The immediate expansions of the Lord are called Swamsha, personal expansions, and there are also expansions called Vibhinnamcha, separated expansions. Among the sons of Pandu, Arjuna is famous as Dhananjaya. He is the best of men and therefore represents Krishna. Among the Munis or learned men conversant in Vedic knowledge, Vyasa is the greatest, because he explained Vedic knowledge in many different ways for the understanding of the common mass of people in this age of Kali. And Vyasa is also known as the incarnation of Krishna. Therefore, Vyasa also represents Krishna. Kavis are those who are capable of thinking thoroughly on any subject matter. Among the Kavis, Ushana Shukracharya was the spiritual master of the demons. He was an extremely intelligent and far-seeing politician. Thus, Shukracharya is another representative of the opulence of Krishna. Thank you. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Rajshri Mataji. That's such a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are some aspects of the purport which will require some further explanation, and we'll attempt to do that. So in this verse, how do we get to understand a glimpse of Sri Krishna's opulences? So Krishna is telling us, look for the best in any category of persons. And when we see the best in any category of persons, then we can understand that this person has a spark of Krishna's opulence. So we can get a faint idea, that which is within our perception, within our experience, what are the opulences of Krishna? So in this verse, he says, of the Vrishnis. The Vrishnis is the dynasty, one of the great dynasties of the history of this earthly planet. And Krishna appeared in the Vrishni dynasty. So he says, in the dynasty of the Vrishnis, I am a Vasudev. And we'll discuss a bit more. Who is this Vasudeva that Krishna is referring to? And he says, of the Pandavas, I am Dhananjaya, Arjuna. Of Munis and saints, I am Vyas. And of Kavis is Ushana, who was also known as Sukracharya. So we'll discuss each of these category of persons that Krishna spoke about, which will enhance our understanding of Krishna's opulence. So the first line, Krishna says, Vrishninam Vasudevasmi. Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudev. And actually, there are many Vasudevs. The Vasudevs are the sons of Vasudev. Vasudev, there's a difference, you can see, the diacritic mark is on the A, so it's a long A. Vasudev against Vasudev. So Krishna's father's name is Vasudev. And all of his children are known as, or some of them are known as Vasudevs. So the question arises here, which of the Vasudevs are being referred to? And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives two possible explanations, and then he expresses which is his preferred explanation. And Prabhupada talks about in the purport, he says, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Balaram is Krishna's immediate expansions. And then Prabhupada raises the question. So he says, there is a statement that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. But he appears everywhere as his expansions. So who is these expansions? To understand this, we need to look a bit more about this diagram, which I showed previously, but I'll discuss again. So we understand that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. He is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Krishna expands himself in what is called Vaibhava Prakash, his first expansion. And Krishna's first expansion is Lord Balaram. And as Prabhupada explains, Krishna and Lord Balaram are identical in all respects, except in two. One is the color of their bodies, and two is the mood. Krishna knows he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like if you ask Krishna, who is God? He'll say, I am God. You ask Balaram, who is God? He says, Krishna is God, and I am the servant of God. So Krishna's direct expansions, like the expansions he exhibited in the Rasa Leela, where he expanded himself, in Dwaraka, where he expands himself to 16,108 forms, those are called Prabhava Prakash expansions. And then from Balaram, we get the further expansions, start Ekatma Rup. And then from Balaram comes the what is called the four-handed form, the Vilas form, and then from that form comes the four quadruple expansions, Vasudev, Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Sankashan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And then from these forms, there is also another aspect called the Swamsha, and Prabhupada refers in the purport to the term Swamsha. And this is where the different expansions of the Lord come from. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that what is being referred to here, the Vasudev that is being referred to here, is Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram. And he's saying, of the Vrishnis, I am Lord Balaram. So Krishna is giving that understanding. And Prabhupada also talks in the purport about two forms, Swamsha and Vibhinamsha, personal expansions and separated expansions. And Prabhupada explained this in a very nice talk, and you can read this when I share the slides. But essentially, as we've been looking in the previous diagram, the Swamsha expansions are expansions of the Lord, or expansions of the expansions of the Lord. And Vibhinamsha, those are the separated expansions. We are separated expansions. As Prabhupada explains here, we are also expansion of God. Vibhinamsha, Vibhi means small, a small particle. So just like the sunshine The sunshine is a combination of bright molecules. So very small parts, brightened parts combined together is called sunshine. So we, the living entities, we are small fragmental parts of the Lord. So therefore we are called Vibhinamsha. Vibhinamsha. So in this way, the Lord expands himself for the purposes of enjoyment to unlimited living entities. And we are one of those separated Vibhinamsha expansions of the Lord. So Krishna is saying of those dynasties, Vrishni dynasties, he is Vasudev. He's saying he is Balaram. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada explains there's two types of understanding. One can see Krishna, that Vasudev means Krishna, or one can see Vasudev means Balaram. So in this way, in the scriptures, there are multiple understandings that one can have. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami writes, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashraya Pratishloka Prati Akshare Nana Artakaya. He says the Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and each and every syllable, there are various meanings. So this is the potency of the Lord's words. Just like Krishna, in one action, he can accomplish many purposes. In the same way, in each of his words, he can convey many meanings. Just like this verse says, not only in each word, but in each syllable, Krishna can convey many meanings. One example, in the scriptures, there is one verse, very famous verse called the Atmarama verse. It is featured in the 7th chapter, 10th verse of the 7th chapter of the 1st canto. And it is spoken by Sutta Goswami. And in this verse, which starts off Atmaramas Chamunayo, Nigranta api urkrame, Kurvanti aitukam bhaktim, itam bhutto guna hari. Of different varieties of Atmarams, those who take pleasure in Atma or self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. So the very simple meaning of this verse is, there are many liberated persons. They are called Atmarams. And these Atmarams means ones that are completely self-satisfied. Although they are liberated and self-satisfied, they still become attracted by Krishna and hearing the activities of Krishna. So in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was a great Vedantist called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And when he saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi, exhibiting lots of emotions, he was not very happy that this sannyasi is acting in an emotional way. And he wanted him to be very scholarly. So he approached the Lord and he rendered some criticism of the Lord, saying that you are not a first-class sannyasi. And he started to speak to the Lord Vedanta. And one of the verses from Vedanta he gave, it was the meaning of Atmaram verse. And he gave a number of meanings. And then he asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu whether he understood. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, I understand, but actually I don't understand the meaning where you've given it, because you've given it interpreted by Sankara Acharya's meanings. And then the Lord gave, without touching the meanings of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he gave 61 different meanings of this one particular verse. So this is what Vedic literature is about. Every verse is full of meanings. But it is only the self-realized souls who can understand the meanings. Just like in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are words that are used in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sanskrit words, that you will not find in any other book. You will never find in any other book. So one may ask the question then, normally, if one reads a Sanskrit word and one doesn't know the meaning, you'll go to a Sanskrit dictionary. One famous one is the William Monier Dictionary. And you look up the meaning, that's the meaning. So what do you do with the Sanskrit words that's never featured anywhere before, as appears many times in Srimad Bhagavatam? You can go and look in the William Monier Dictionary and you'll find the meaning. But someone may ask the question, how did the meaning come about? And actually the meaning comes about from the commentaries of the great acharyas, the great devotees of the Lord, who reveal the meaning, who are so in touch with Krishna, who Krishna has bestowed with full knowledge. They reveal the meaning. So this is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita, the words of Krishna, and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So when one sees someone explaining different meanings, this is how one should understand it. Don't take any meaning from one who is not a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, because that will be a speculation. Only take the meaning from the pure devotees. Then the next line is Pandavanam Dhananjaya. And who is that? Arjuna. Arjuna is called Dhananjaya, and he was given this title by his brother Yudhishthir. And Prabhupada explains, a person who has conquered over wealth, he is given this title Dhananjaya. So Maharaj Yudhishthir used to perform what is called a Rajasuya sacrifice, which required great amounts of wealth. So he asked Arjuna to go and get wealth. And Arjuna traveled to the Himalaya mountains. And from there he came back with a huge quantity of gold. And Maharaj Yudhishthir was so pleased with him, he gave him the title Dhananjaya. But actually, how did Arjuna know where to go find so much of gold? It is because Krishna told him. In Vedic times, the Brahmanas used to eat from golden plates. Nowadays, we eat from cardboard plate or plate made up of china or metal. In the olden days of the greater India, the Mahabharata, in those days, the Brahmanas and the great saintly people, they used to eat from golden plate. And the moment they finish eating from the plate, they will throw it away. That's how wealthy and opulent they were. So Krishna told Arjuna, if you go to the Himalayas, there's a stockpile of all of these golden plates that has been thrown away. If you go there, you can get a great amount of wealth. So here we see Dhananjaya, that Arjuna, he's getting his name from the power and from the knowledge of Krishna. Yesterday we read this beautiful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, where Arjuna is lamenting, and then he speaks and he says, now that Krishna is gone, he feels completely powerless. Although he was known as the greatest of the Pandavas. There were 5 Pandava brothers, Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev. And Arjuna is considered to be the greatest of the Pandavas because of his military prowess. He was unparalleled. And one prime example was at the Swayamvar ceremony of Draupadi, where so many of the world's greatest warriors came, and none of them could equal the prowess of Arjuna. And Arjuna says that in the Bhagavatam verse, that power was coming from Krishna. Then there is this verse, Muninam, the line, Muninam api aham vyas. Among the sages, I am Vyas. Lord Chaitanya And Prabhupada writes, among the munis or learned men conversant in Vedic knowledge, Vyas is the greatest because he explained Vedic knowledge in many different ways for the understanding of the common mass of people in this age of Kali. And Vyas is also known as the incarnation of Krishna. Therefore, Vyas also represents Krishna. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya gave the meaning of Muni to Sanatana Goswami. And he said the word Muni refers to one who is thoughtful, who is grave or silent, an ascetic, one who keeps great vows, one who is renounced order, and a saint. These are the great different meanings of the word Muni. So Vyasadeva is known as Mahamuni, the greatest of the Munis. That's how Bhagavatam describes him. And in our temples, anyone who sits on the seat and speaks from the Vedic scriptures, that seat is called Vyasasan, the seat of Vyas. And Prabhupada explains that Vyas means guru because he is the original guru. Therefore, when the spiritual master's birthday is observed, it is called Vyas Puja. This Vyas Puja means a spiritual master is a representative of Vyas. And anyone who sits on this Vyasasan, they represent Vyasadeva. And whatever they speak is the knowledge that is given or obtained from Srila Vyasadeva. Because Vyasadeva is the incarnation, the literary incarnation of Lord Krishna. Therefore, being the literary incarnation of Lord Krishna, whatever he speaks or writes is absolute truth. And he has written in the Bhagavatam, Krishnasva Dhamma Pagate Dharma Ginad Bisaha Kalonasta Drishamesha Puranako Dunoditaha. That in this age of Kali, as Krishna departed from this earth, accompanied by religion, religiosity, knowledge, and so on, he descended on the earthly planet in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of the Lord who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the greatest work of Srila Vyasadeva, which is accepted to be the cream, the essence, the greatest of all literatures, is Srimad Bhagavatam. Our great Acharya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once said, if by some great calamity all of the literature in the world burned down, and there is only one book that remains, the Srimad Bhagavatam, there will be no cause for lamentation. Because in this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is compiled by the great sage Vyas in his mature stage, it can reveal all knowledge for the human civilization to attain perfection. And this Bhagavatam, it's so relishable. 90% of it is poetry. And anyone who reads this Bhagavatam can immediately be liberated from the material condition of life. Not only the material condition of life, but he will attain love of Godhead to the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. So Vyas is definitely the greatest of all the munis because of the literature he's given us, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. And then it is said, Kavinam Ushana Kavi. Among great thinkers, I am Ushana. Among the Kavis, Ushana Shukracharya was the spiritual master of the demons. He was an extremely intelligent and far-reaching politician. Thus, Shukracharya is another representative of the opulence of Krishna. Kavi means poet. And the greatest of all poets is Krishna. And one can get an inclination of the poetic nature of Krishna through Shukracharya. And Shukracharya, the Bhagavatam mentions many pastimes, and he's famous for one pastime in particular, and that is the pastime of Lord Vamanadev. And it starts off as described in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, of Bali Maharaj, the chief of the demons, how he died in a fight. But by the greatness of Shukracharya, he regained his life. Thus, Bali Maharaj accepted Shukracharya as his spiritual master. And in the eighth canto, one finds some nice verses recited, 8th canto, 23rd chapter, explained or narrated by Shukracharya. And there is one verse that is narrated that I really relish, and I really appreciate his qualities as a poet. And this is the verse. Mantratas tantratas chidram deshe kalaha vashtutaha sarvam karoti nischitridam anusankirtanam tava. And the translation of this verse is, there may be discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras and observing the regulative principles. And moreover, there may be discrepancies in regard to time, place, person, and paraphernalia. But when your Lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes perfect. This is such a beautiful verse because it's so relevant to us. As part of human dharma, we are required to perform so many regulative principles. Sometimes we have to do some puja, sometimes we have to chant some mantras, and according to time, place, a person, paraphernalia, we have to do it. But it is said Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. Even nowadays, when you see there's any yagya, the priests, they make so many mistakes. They get tongue-tied, they forget a word, because the memory in Kali Yuga is so bad. And then in the paraphernalia, it's not the best ghee. The ghee we're putting in the fire is not pure ghee. Sometimes it's contaminated. The grains we put there has its own contamination in terms of how it is transported, by who it's transported. So in everything we do, in terms of performances, there is fault, there is error, there is shortcoming. But what Shukracharya says in this verse, but when the Lord's holy name is chanted, everything becomes perfect, flawless. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has taught us, in everything we do, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When you're cooking, chant. When you're doing some puja, chant. When you're inviting some saintly persons and you want to welcome, chant. When you go to some place, chant. Because everything you do in life, in Kali Yuga, is full of mistakes. But when you chant Krishna's holy name, everything becomes perfect. So Shukracharya has given this beautiful verse in the 8th canto, 23rd chapter, 16th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I thought this was a very nice verse of the Bhagavad Gita, and we can see in the Vrishnis, in the Pandavas, in the Munis, and the Kavis, all of that we can get a glimpse of Krishna's vibhutis, unlimited opulences. So I'll stop here. I will take any questions or comments or reflections that anyone may have.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Puja Mataji.
Oh, yes, my question is that when Krishna says, I am Arjun, or I am this, or I am that, what does it actually mean?
Oh, okay. I thought we explained it, but I'll explain it again. It does not mean he is Arjuna. Like I was explaining in this slide here, what Krishna is saying, to get an understanding of his opulence, just look around you. Just like, say, if you want to find understand Krishna's strength. Who is the strongest man you can think of? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Then you think that little strength, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a spark of Krishna's strength. Among the Pandavas, who's the greatest? Arjuna. Why is the greatest? Because of his prowess. That prowess is a spark of Krishna's. Of the Munis, the writers, who is the greatest of all writers? It's Vyas. So if you can think, Vyas is such an amazing writer. Just look how he's compiled the Bhagavatam. That is a fraction of Krishna's ability to write. In the poet, Kavi, poetry, who is the greatest of all the poets? Sukracharya. Look at his poetry, how great it is. But it is a fragment. You can get an idea of Krishna's ability to be poetic by these examples. So it's not that they are Krishna, but in these great personalities, we see a reflection of Krishna's opulences. That is what Krishna is trying to say.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I just like you said Balaram is no different than Krishna. It's like
Yes.
It's only that's the color different. But then like Krishna has 64 qualities. So like Balaram has same like quality and everything.
Yes, Balaram has same, but one sense in a different mood. Like Krishna's topmost qualities, Venu Madhurya, is playing off the flute. So Balaram doesn't play the flute because Krishna, when he plays the flute, the entire world gets attracted. But Balaram has a plow and he shows his strength. The other is Leela Madhuri, Krishna's pastimes. Lord Balaram also exhibits, but the mood is slightly different. So although it is, we say, identical, there are still some differences.
Like and also like when there was Mahabharata youth at the time, Balaram was not like take participant and even
Yes.
with the pilgrim. So why
There's different moods. Like Krishna wanted Arjuna to marry Subhadra, and Balaram wanted who was it? I forget now. Someone else to marry Subhadra. Duryodhan, yes, Duryodhan. They had some difference. But this is the nature of the absolute truth. He's an expansion, he's different. He's not Swayam Bhagavan, he's different. But still Krishna is Krishna's very, very first expansion. So there's some difference in mood and some difference in qualities also, because they are different personalities.
Okay, thank you.
But it's from Balaram that the Vasudev incarnations come.
Okay.
Any other question, comments, or reflections?
Hello.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have a question.
Yes.
Can Balram be considered as a shadow of Sri Krishna?
As a shadow of Sri Krishna?
Yeah.
I've not heard that anyway. What I have read, and this has been explained by Lord Krishna himself,
Okay.
In the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is same Krishna. This is this diagram I showed you. That is an explanation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, and he doesn't say shadow. He calls it Vaibhava Prakash, expansion. Expansion with different mood, different bodily features. Yeah, but I've not heard Balaram described as shadow anywhere now.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, in this diagram, it says that different form of Krishna, Vishnu, Garbhodaya Vishnu, is coming from Balram's expansions, not from Krishna's expansion. Is that correct?
Because Krishna is expanding to Balaram, and from Balaram, it's coming like that.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I just wanted to have clarification as to, is Balaram and Sankarsana the same? or different?
It depends on which Sankarshan. If you see in this diagram here, Mataji, there are two types. Sometimes Balaram is also called Sankarshan, but then there is the quadruple called the Chaturvya Vyuha expansions. And then from there comes Sankarshan. So that is like a different Sankarshan, four-hand Sankarshan. But sometimes Lord Balaram is also known as Sankarshan.
Okay.
But that's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhuji, you know, Vyasadeva, he is a literary incarnation of Krishna. So, so we consider him as an expansion of Krishna, or
you see in this diagram
means he's like a Krishna or no?
No. You see in this diagram, yes, Swamsha.
Yeah.
One of the expansions is called Shaktivesh Avatar.
Oh, yes, Saktavesh, yeah.
Yeah, Vyasadeva comes in this category.
Oh, okay.
In this category, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he's not his full Krishna, but he's partial.
No. Yeah, yeah.
Partial.
Literary incarnation, yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
You said about Madhuri, Venu Madhuri, Leela Madhuri.
Yes.
What are the other two? I've forgotten.
The other two is Rupa Madhurya.
Oh, yes.
Is form, unparalleled beauty. And the last one is Bhakta Vatsal, is unparalleled relationship with devotees. Venu Madhuri, yeah.
So how does Balaram, I mean, you were giving examples like Venu and plow. Even Balaram had Ras Leela with his gopis, probably.
Yes.
And these two, the Rupa, and because he's very handsome, Rupa, warm.
Yeah, very beautiful Balaram.
Very beautiful.
And then Bhakta Vatsal, he's also very affectionate towards the devotees.
Is it like a spiritual master?
Yes, Balaram. So the mood is different. As I explained, you know, if you ask Krishna who is God, he will say, I am God. And you ask Balaram who is God, he will say, Krishna is God, I am the servant of God. So there's a difference in mood. Potencies are there, same. But mood is vastly different.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Jolly.
I'm just wondering, this expansion I don't make sense of it because Krishna is Almighty God.
Mm-hmm.
How can he expand himself to these people? Isn't it because he just allocate power to them in a different form? Isn't that what it is?
No, it seemed like, as I was trying to show in this diagram, and I hope I've not confused you all, but even if you do not feel ready for it.
I'm early learners, yeah.
It will come with time, but this is just to give some idea, or especially in the context of Srila Prabhupada's purport. Actually, the potencies and the expansions of the Lord are very difficult to understand, unless one is in the liberated condition. Like, I can speak about it, but I can speak about it from the point of gyan, knowledge. That means just theoretical knowledge.
Yeah.
But to really understand it, one needs to come to the platform of vigyan, realized knowledge. But for now, we can take it, as explained by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Krishna has innumerable potencies, innumerable expansions. And these expansions are of the varying categories, varying potencies, varying moods. And that's how we can, in a basic sense, look at it. How Krishna does that is unfathomable. How he can expand himself into so many various forms would seem. One example that Lord Brahma gives in the Brahma Samhita, to give us a little example. He says, sometimes you may see there's one candle, and then you take another candle and you light that candle from the first candle. Both candles have the same burning power and strength of illumination, and so on.
Mm.
But it is that one candle is that original candle. So
Mm.
Lord Brahma tries to give us some little explanation, understanding of these potencies and expansions of the Lord. But in one sense, it is difficult. It'll take time and maturity in our spiritual lives to understand this.
Absolutely.
There can be some,
Thank you. Yeah.
there can be some theoretical understanding. So we shouldn't worry about even if we don't have the Vigyan. At least some
Yeah.
Gyan can be there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Puja Mataji.
When it is mentioned that Krishna has never lived Vrindavan, that's why people say that he's still there in Vrindavan?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do want to raise the subject because it is a deep subject matter, and it's a subject I've had questions of a long time.
Yes.
It's just like Prabhupada raises the question then. So if Krishna leaves Vrindavan, never leaves Vrindavan, then who was it that spoke Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Krishna? Battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Yes.
Who was it that spoke? And that is, I've been given some deep explanations about how Krishna stays in Vrindavan in his bhava expansion. Very simple explanation. It's very deep, but he stays always in Vrindavan in his bhava expansion.
Yeah.
And then he goes to other places like Dwaraka and Kurukshetra and all, in his other expansions. Swayam Prakash. We make distinctions because everything is relative to us. It's almost black and white. It's either black and white. And these transcendental subject matters, they're very deep. But that is just one basic understanding.
It requires deep knowledge to understand all this, isn't it?
Very, very, very deep.
Oh,
very deep. Very deep.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So maybe
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Yes, I have two questions. One hopefully short one, and then another one in a slightly different context. First is when we chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yes.
Who are we offering our obeisances to?
Yes.
And the second question on a slightly different context is for us as living entities on this earth, as followers of Krishna, what's the difference sort of context? Can we explain the context of free will and predestination?
Okay. Wonderful questions.
Haribol.
So the first question is when we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, who are we addressing? As Vaishnavas, as devotees of Lord Krishna, again, the subject matter is very deep and I can go off in a big tangent here. But for the purposes of your question, it can be Krishna or Krishna's expansions. As Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we take Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya to mean Krishna. Others take him to be his Vasudev expansions, four-armed Vasudev expansion, and so on. But it is Krishna or his expansions. And Prabhupada explains, when we say Krishna, Krishna means his expansions, his abode, his name, his form, and so on. So that's the first answer. The second answer is free will and the concept of, just repeat, you said the distinction between free will and, I'm trying to find the word you used.
Predestination.
Predestination.
Like a fate, basically, you know, that we Hindus sort of kind of believe in fate or whatever, actually. So everything is kind of predestined, or do we have a free will as a soul which is on this earth, that we basically have a free will to do things the way we want to, or everything is predestined for us?
Okay. In one sense, as it is said, when the moment we take birth, the span of our life is dependent on our number of breaths we're going to take. And that's predestined. All right. And astrologers can foresee your future. So there's an element of things that are already been decided. But at the same time, the living entity has free will. Srila Prabhupada has expressed the free will in simple terms. That we have the independence to either serve Krishna or not serve Krishna. That is the greatest exhibition of our free will. And we also have free will in terms of desire. As we desire, we create karma, and that karma determines our destination. So it's almost like you have the independence, and it's the karma that you've got from your previous life. It's creating your current life, and it's the karma that you're creating within this life is going to determine your future life. So both elements are there, but essentially from the Vaishnava Siddhanta, free will is exhibited in the sense of a very narrow definition, that we either can choose to serve Krishna or not serve Krishna. But then again, that's a long topic. Maybe on another class, I'll try to give more focus when we speak about karma, give more focus about the different nuances and elements to your question.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, we already gone 10 to, so maybe today we won't go through anyone's profile because I'm very conscious to stick to time. I thank you very much for your time, for your patient listening, and for your attention. And we hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Vaishnava.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.